Hey, this is Pamela Schneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. Oh, okay. I have Greg Johnson here, our Director of Media Development, and we're talking this week about a couple of things. Fantastic, tremendous growth in one area and kind of an iceberg situation. Are we just at the tip of it for another? Let's start with the good news, I guess. Dollar General reported its third quarter earnings, and they're growing tremendously. They opened their 17,000th store in the U.S., and that's kind of surprising to a lot of people that Dollar General would have that many stores. But the thing that I've been watching over the last couple of years is that they are continuing to remodel stores and into this Dollar General Traditional Plus format, and that includes fresh produce. And when we first started talking about Dollar General and fresh produce, they had about 15,000 stores, and only about 200 stores had fresh produce. Nowadays, 1,000 of them have a small section of fruits and vegetables. The Dollar General Market, on the other hand, the larger version of this store has a bit of a larger fresh produce department. I'd say probably maybe 50 to 100 items. The smaller version is about 15 feet of fresh produce, but to see that they are growing that quickly and implementing fresh produce that quickly is pretty amazing.
And because they're making it such a bigger priority, the self-distribution news, I think, is of pretty big interest to our readers and viewers.
Yeah, that's the other thing that they're doing. They're doing this the initiative they're calling DG Fresh. And for now, that does not include fresh produce. They're not self-distributing fresh produce right now, but they're seeing such improvement. And actually, one of the executives called self-distribution the gift that keeps on giving, because they're having such great return on investment, and their out of stocks are down. That as this is growing, as soon as they can, they're going to implement their own self-distribution in fresh produce. And we're going to see fresh produce added to a lot more stores very quickly.
Yeah, that's great news. And they're so big in the smaller and rural communities that there's all this new access, we're hopeful, to fresh produce.
Yeah, they say, I think their stats are that they want to be within 5 miles. I think right now there's 75% of the population. There's a Dollar General within 5 miles of their house, and Walmart, I think it is 10 miles from 90% of the population. So there is a tremendous opportunity there in accessibility of fruits and vegetables that I think can't be ignored. In less good news, we had a press release from the National Restaurant Association that says that the terrible effect the pandemic is having on restaurants is just the tip of the iceberg. So what's going on with restaurants right now?
It's horrible news from NRA, and it's not just affecting the people who cover the fresh produce and food business. This has been picked up by mainstream media across the country. NRA is saying that the losses are getting worse, and up to 500,000 restaurants may be on the edge of closing, and they ask Congress for some relief. But that's not the solution. I mean, the solution is opening up the economy, and we kind of got through it in the summer based on the ability of restaurants to serve food outdoors and avoid some of the problems with indoor gatherings. But now with infection rates going up, a lot of cities and states are restricting gatherings, and that's affecting the restaurant industry. And it's not going to get better anytime soon. It could easily be all the way through the winter, and it's terrible news. There are restaurants that will definitely go out of business. We're already seeing it. We will see more. They just can't operate at the levels that they're being forced to operate.
Well, and it's not just a certain type of restaurant. They're saying in their survey of 6,000 restaurants, they're saying 87% of the full service restaurants, independents, chains, and franchises, said they had an average of 36% drop in revenue. And that's not sustainable in the long term. 58% of the chain and independent full service operators said they can expect to do more furloughs and layoffs for at least the next 3 months. So, you know, as of today, 17% of all restaurants, more than 110,000, have closed permanently or for long-term closures due to the pandemic. So it's going to be bleak news, and I don't see the economy opening back up. Even here in Texas, Texas has some of the least restrictions on it. You can go to a restaurant here. There's just not that many people at them.
And
so
you can sit outside there through the winter in a lot of places.
Yeah, we can sit outside, and my family, when we do dine out, we sit outside. And we're lucky enough here that it's generally pretty warm, but a lot of places, even with heaters, it's not feasible to do outdoor dining year round.
No, it is not.
And in other news, we had some insight from our friend Anna Marie Moronic at 210 Analytics. She did a report. She typically does a monthly report with IRI data based on just fresh produce, but she also covers a lot of other categories, including meat, deli, dairy, bakery, seafood, those areas. And she did a pre-Thanksgiving report to talk about how consumers are shopping for Thanksgiving and what that could mean for the rest of the December holidays. And it turns out not everyone was doing their last minute Thanksgiving shopping. It looks like everyone pretty much wrapped it up the week before. And that's kind of a change from what we typically see as holiday shopping. So maybe when we come into the rest of the December holidays, Christmas and New Year are coming up for us, we're going to see people wrapping up their shopping a little earlier.
Well, one of the things I noticed in the report is that potatoes did fantastic.
Yes, potatoes did do fantastic. I'm looking at the numbers right now. So for some of the data that Anne-Marie pulled up, she pulled up the Thanksgiving favorites, which are green beans, cranberries, potatoes, and sweet potatoes. And what's really funny to me is the week ending November 8th, it looks like everyone was fasting before they got to their Thanksgiving feast, because fresh potatoes were actually down 11% that week. And then the next week they were up 43%. The week ending 11/22, they were up 46%. That's pretty funny. It was like, okay, I'm gonna eat potatoes for Thanksgiving, so let me hold back, and then open the gates, all of the potatoes.
Yeah, well, I bought the 10-pound bag for that sucker, and we're still eating them. We love our potatoes.
I mean, sweet potatoes too. They were up 18% the first week in November, and then just before Thanksgiving up 28 and 31%, and now they're back down to -2% the week after Thanksgiving. But overall, everything was up in the 4 weeks surrounding Thanksgiving. So I mean, we're still continuing those upward trends, but I thought it was hilarious that people seemed to back off of the potatoes because they knew they were going to eat a ton of them for Thanksgiving.
Well, I'm impressed that the week after Thanksgiving, it was still up year over year. So people did eat that whole 10-pound bag, and it's like, well, I gotta go get some more now. That was good. I regret nothing.
You know what happened too? I went to some of the sales were still going on because I have Target's Circle app, and onions and potatoes were actually 50% off on the Circle app. So there were still some promotions that were ongoing even after Thanksgiving to kind of continue to sell out some of that stuff. I think it's going to be interesting going into Christmas as we're talking about these other holidays and other types of people are having smaller events, maybe just keeping it to your nuclear family. And instead of having that big Christmas ham, are we going to do maybe something fancier? Maybe do a standing rib roast and some, Brussels sprouts or something like that. Changing up your holiday meal because it's going to be a smaller group is good. It's a moving target for retailers right now to decide exactly what consumers are going to be looking for. And maybe they can even steer the direction with some recipe tips or some meal inspirations.
And consumers may be willing to spend more since they'll be spending less at restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's going on here. My family over the last 4 weeks has been doing meal kits again. again with the meal kits because we've just been uninspired when it comes to meal inspiration and meal ideas. And so I joined up with another one based on a social media post. Marley Spoon by Martha Stewart got me by giving me half off of 4 weeks. So I decided to give them a try. And here's the thing about meal kits with us these days is that my kids are either excited or they have a fair amount of trepidation of, oh great, what's she going to give to us now? Because I'm trying to try different and new ideas and they're like, Mom, please, just tacos. So
Sounds like you have a disconnect with your consumer base.
I may have a disconnect with my consumer base if I try to feed them any more weird Asian noodle dishes because they're getting tired of it. And they're like, Mom, can you just make the pho you normally make? But I got to get some more ideas. And that was another thing that I saw. Actually, the Southeast Produce Council has been having these presentations in what they're calling their virtual garden platform. And Anna Marie was on there this week giving some really great examples of retailers that are helping consumers with meal inspiration. Because I think we've all hit that pandemic wall of, I just want someone else to decide. And also if they could make it and clean it up for me, that would be great. And so you know what that means? That's actually a restaurant.
Yeah, that's a restaurant.
That's exactly a restaurant. So I think when they were talking about the roaring 20s and how people all reacted to the Spanish influenza pandemic back then, and that's why we had the craziness of the 1920s, I can totally see that happening for when the world opens back up. Restaurants are going to be hopping if they can make it through the next couple of months.
Yeah, and they have the advantage of being able to serve alcohol now.
Yeah, we don't have to deal with that. All right, well, that's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up.